Welcome to the Smarter Science of Slim, the scientifically proven program where you eat more and exercise less to burn fat and boost health.
Eat smarter, exercise smarter, live better. I am so ready for that.
Hey everybody, Jonathan Baylor back with another Calorie Myth show here in the studio with the lovely and the star of today's show, which we'll talk about in a second, Carrie Brown. What's up, Carrie? How you doing?
Hello.
How are things?
Awesome.
They are awesome because Carrie and I recently took a bit of a hiatus from recording, and upon Carrie's arrival to the studio after said hiatus, boom! Sanity reigned. It was like a thunderstorm of sanity. So, Carrie, I want to, in this episode, and maybe as long as it takes, I want to unpack what's been going on with Carrie Brown because it's quite epic from a sanity perspective.
Woo!
So, Carrie, what's been going on from a sanity perspective?
I became hardcore.
And what inspired this hardcore sanity transition?
Stress.
Okay, I'm going to... All right, so we've got 1- and 2-word answers so far. We're going to try to elucidate on that. Can you give us a bit of the narrative?
There's just so much, and I'm just so excited. I just don't know where to start.
So less about what caused the tipping point, and more about once you tipped, what you changed about your lifestyle and the results you've seen so far.
So I made the decision that I needed to become, because of various factors, one of which is this medication I'm on that actually helps me to gain weight. I realized that I had to become super sane and super serious to combat the effects of the medication. And I also realized that one of my things that I felt was holding me back was lack of routine, and that I needed to get really serious, really hardcore about implementing what I know from Jonathan.
Carrie, so there's two awesome things in what you just said, which I was trying to write down, but you stopped talking while I was writing them down. And the first was this idea of playing the hand that you're dealt, which I love and I want to explore more. And the second was, I should have written it down, playing the hand you're dealt, and the routine, which is super critical. And actually, I don't think we've covered routines much on this show. So can you dig into that a little bit? And then I will talk about from a macro perspective why routine has been proven actually to really help predict success.
Well, I found that life has been ridiculously crazy. Day job, schedules, all sorts of stuff going on. And my routine became lost in that. So there were some days, if I had to get up super early, I would run out the house without eating. I would forget to eat lunch. I would get home too late to make dinner. I would forget to take my supplements. I was not religious about doing my eccentric exercises. If they got done, it was a bonus. But if they didn't get done, well, my schedule was such that if it didn't get done, it doesn't get done. And so I became really hardcore about putting these things first and making everything else work around it rather than the other way around.
When you said putting these things first, Carrie, that reminded me of probably the single most powerful visual metaphor I have ever seen in my entire life. And it was this was a long time ago, back when the late Stephen Covey, the guy who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which, listeners, if you haven't read, I can honestly say is the single most transformational book I have ever read in my life, he was on stage and he had a large glass bowl, and he took the glass bowl and then he poured some water into it up to basically the very top. And then he tried to add some pebbles or sand, and of course the glass overflowed. And then he brought out another pitcher, glass bowl, etc., etc. And then he took these 3 big rocks and put them in the glass bowl. So just imagine you've got a glass bowl. Now you've got 3 big rocks in it. And then he took out pebbles, so smaller rocks, and he poured them into the bowl, and they fit. And then he took out, so now you have a glass bowl with rocks and pebbles filling in the cracks. And then he took out sand, and he poured sand into the glass bowl. And of course it fit, and it filled in all the cracks and crevices. And then, even when it appeared that this glass bowl was filled to the tip top with these different sizes of rocks, sand is just small rocks, he poured water into it, and the water fit. So you have these 2 jars, and what he was illustrating was that exactly what Carrie was saying was when you put the big things in first, you can accompany them with smaller things, but if you start with the small things, you completely crowd out the space needed for the big things. And Carrie, just from a macro life perspective, I think the best example of this in real life, so that was a metaphorical example, in real life is, I'm sure we've all had times when maybe it's December 31st or it's New Year's Day, and we look back at an entire year and we say, what 3 big things, and when I say big things, I mean what 3 things that will matter 5 years from now in a positive way happened this year, or that did I make happen this year? And so often, coming up with a list of 3 things that we accomplished that will matter in 5 years, over the course of an entire year, we come up shorthanded because it's like this minutia management crisis, meetings, phone calls stuff going on, and it crowds everything else out. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That's where my life kind of blew up a bit at the end of last year, because there'd been so much of the crazy that a lot of important things had got lost. And so I stepped back and made the decision that the important things had to get in, and they had to get in first. The third thing that has really made a huge difference is that I have been focusing on reducing stress. And that for me has been huge. Oh, and the 4th thing is sleep. I have not slept for 18 months. And
you don't mean no sleep, you mean trouble sleep.
Well, I mean, I troubled and or almost none. Very little sleep for 18 months, which causes an amazing amount of stress on the body. And it causes your adrenal glands to go mad, and it causes cortisol to go mad. And it makes it impossible for you to lose weight if your cortisol is all over the place. And so I have been working at reducing stress, and by all manner of things, and also getting my sleep sorted out, which I have now done.
So I want to dig into, Carrie, the specific things you're doing to improve your sleep and your stress, but one other thing to dig into from a educational perspective first is, you talked about routine, you talked about scheduling things first, and I think this will definitely be 2 podcasts because we've got a lot to cover here. But the thing that's really important about scheduling routine, one of the things that's important about scheduling routine and putting the big things in first is, I forget the name of the law. It might be like Parkinson's law or something like that, but it's true, where work or tasks often fill the time they're allotted. So if a meeting has an hour scheduled for it, isn't it interesting that the meeting takes an hour? Or if you have an hour to cook dinner, somehow it takes an hour to cook dinner, magically. But when we, for example, let's say we had a bunch of other stuff going on in the day in a professional environment, and we said, we can only meet for 15 minutes, you would find often that you would get the same results from that 15-minute meeting as you would from the hour meeting. Or if you knew you only had 20 minutes to cook dinner, you would find a way to cook dinner in 20 minutes. It actually forces you, by putting these time constraints on yourself, it forces you to work smarter, not harder, because you can't just throw time at the problem. So this is often why people say, want something done, give it to a busy person, because the busy person has to find a way to make it work rather than just throwing time at it. So when you say, for example, I am going to go to a yoga class, and I am going to budget an hour in the evening to do food preparation, you will still get everything else in your life done, because you will make yourself get it done, but you have to put those big rocks in first, or else the little rocks, all the sand and the pebbles, will crowd them out. Make sense?
Absolutely.
So the sleep and stress, tactically, what so many people, I mean, we talk so much on the show, Carrie, about reducing stress, sleeping better. Reduce stress, sleep better, which is so much more easily said than done. So how have you seen success in improving those two areas?
The stress thing is a huge topic, and I could probably talk for days about the things I've done.
So let's focus on stress in the next episode. Let's focus on sleep then now.
Okay, so sleep, and this is kind of a cheat, but I tried everything. And there's a couple of things that taking melatonin helped me to get to sleep. And also I found that, and might sound silly, but I was always one of those people that loved to have the big fat duvet. I love the weight. I love all the feeling of all the duvet and the fluff.
When you say duvet, you mean a heavy blanket?
No, a duvet, the thing filled with feathers.
Oh, like a comforter.
A comforter.
Oh, okay.
So I love that feeling. I love lots of things on top of me, and I like to feel warm. But what I discovered was that I was actually waking up. If I did manage to get to sleep, I was waking up after about an hour and a half or 2 hours because I was too hot. So simply changing. So the duvet went, and I got 2 fleece blankets, and that stopped that problem entirely. It was a very simple fix, but it made a huge difference because I wasn't getting overheated at night, so I wasn't waking up with the heat. So that really helped me. Taking melatonin, I find, helps get me to sleep. And then the other one that I've done, and this may not be for everybody, but for me, I tried everything, all the hints and tips and tricks there were, but I eventually went to my doctor and had him prescribe me something that is working like a champ.
And that is that something that I'm not super familiar with sleep medication. So is that something you're going to stay on for the rest of your life? Or is that something that is used in a temporary fashion?
I don't know the answer to that. Right now, it's working so brilliantly, and I'm having such a good time sleeping for 7 to 8 hours a night that I'm good with it. Whether I will have to, I'm hoping that I will get into a place where my body is used to the sleep, so it will automatically be able to do that on my own without any help. And what I'm taking is not addictive. So my hope is that once I've got back into the habit of sleeping, I will just naturally be able to do that myself.
What I like about that is it gives us opportunity to Carrie to talk about what I think personally and in the world of addictions and curing things, this is reflected there as well. When medication, for lack of better terms, because as we know nowadays, the difference between a medicine and an edible product is becoming more and more ambiguous. Everything you put in your body has an impact on your brain and your hormones and chemicals. So it's kind of all one big thing. If it goes in your mouth, it has an impact on your body. But what you're describing here, Carrie, is, for example, telling someone who is not getting any sleep and therefore is hugely stressed and their brain is operating at 10%. Figure out how to get more stress is like telling someone who's drowning, like, stop drowning. What's it like try harder to swim? And they're like, I can't swim, I'm drowning. And you're just like, try harder. So if you're not getting sleep and then we give you this task of needing to figure this out, that's going to be kind of a challenge. Whereas if you can get some help, which then allows you to get that sleep, which then allows you to have your brain operational at 100%, you might be able to take care of some other things that are going on, which may be at the root of why it was hard for you to sleep in the first place. And then that initial help you needed, it's a bit like just helping a spaceship to get through the atmosphere. Like there's that gravity pulling you back, but if you can break through that and you can overcome whatever's holding you back from a macro perspective, then you might not need that boost anymore.
That's exactly right. And I think I am not a fan of taking any medications for anything ever. I don't like to feel like I'm taking medication. But in this instance, nothing was going to get better until I got some sleep. Getting the sleep was the most important thing. So how I got it became less important. So I went to the doctor, I got something that's getting me to sleep. My whole world flipped right way up, within, after 5 nights of getting a full night's sleep, everything changed.
That is so important, Carrie, because we do have to give ourselves permission to get help. And we always have to think, my wife is a good example of this. She's the most amazing person I've ever met in my life, but she has I think, and this is funny coming from me, she is overly adverse to taking medication. So like she will have a pounding headache, which is compromising her ability to get work done. And that's stressing her out. And I'm like, take a leave. If you take a leave, your headache will go away. I promise you. At least it does for me all the time, consistently. And is a leave perfect? Should you take it every day? Does it have side effects? Yes. But you have to say, you always have to look at things like the next best alternative. So in this instance, my dear wife, Angela, she could either be the next 4 hours of her life, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. And she will then be stressed for the next 4 days because nothing happened in those 4 hours. She can choose that, or she can choose to take a leave. What shouldn't be in her thought tree is this third mythical choice of, I just want my headache to go away and I don't want to take anything, because that's not a viable. So often as people, we have a tendency to want the perfect option, but what we really need to look at is the viable option. So if the choice is between a real solution of you take a medication and you get some sleep and there might be some side effects, and the choice is between that and you get no sleep, which has horrific side effects, the decision is between those two options, not a third option, which is magical world where you somehow magically get to sleep and don't take any medication, because that's actually not a viable choice. If it was, you would have already done it.
Sleep is so, I don't even have the words to explain how important sleep is. It just, if you're not sleeping, nothing else works. Nothing else works.
It's like putting fuel in your car's gas tank. So for people who are listening to this episode, really, you know how much Carrie and I are all about sane eating and eccentric exercise. If you are not getting sufficient sleep, there is nothing you can do in those arenas that will compensate for the lack of sleep. It's foundational. It's like water or air. You have to get it. And if you're not getting it, please maybe stop spending your time and money on workout DVDs or the newest gimmick pill, powder, or potion that's supposed to help you burn fat, because frankly, dropping your cortisol levels and getting your hormones in line and getting your brain back, which will be the result of getting more sleep, will do way more than all of those things. And especially when people trade time sleeping for exercise, that's just really not the right trade-off.
It's been magical for me. Getting sleep has been absolutely magical. And you mentioned exercise, and that's another thing that has changed for me, is that I finally gave in and went to the gym, because I was finding, I did ballet for 17 years, and so my leg muscles are quite strong, and I found it impossible to do the assisted leg squat in the book at home. I could never do it to the point where it made me sore. And so I talked to my lovely friend, Mr. Jonathan Baylor, and he said it's hard to get resistance up to the required level at home for your legs. So I finally gave in and went to the gym, and doing my eccentrics at the gym has transformed everything about doing my eccentric workout.
Thank you so much for bringing that up, Carrie, because we really have to keep in mind, for example, if an individual weighs 300 pounds and has a frame which supports naturally about 160 pounds, and that individual has not done ballet, so they do not have characteristically strong leg muscles, an individual who with weak legs, who weighs 300 pounds, whose body at its ideal weight was about 160, you could imagine doing a wall squat or an eccentric squat for them is going to be very challenging because they have a bunch of additional resistance already on their body and they're starting from a different place. But for all of our listeners who are really close to their ideal body weight or have a history of athletics or anything that's going to strengthen your legs, you're in a much different place. Your legs are well equipped to handle your body weight. Frankly, if you don't get out of breath walking up one flight of stairs, you're going to need more resistance to really activate your leg muscles, which is so important because 60 to 70% of all the muscle on your body is below your waist. So if you're not getting the most out of those exercises, again, you're spending your time and effort, which is great, but you're not going to get the benefits you want simply because the resistance is not possible to achieve at home. And I got to tell you, when Carrie sent me an email that was, it just said in the subject line,
"Are you sitting down?"
And I thought, because I know that Carrie's been under some stress, that there was going to be just like bad news. I was like, oh God, like this isn't good. And then I opened the email, and then it just said, "I joined a gym," and I literally was LOLing to speak in the way the kids speak today, or LMFAOing to be even more cutting edge. It was really, really funny. So Carrie, I'm delighted to hear that you are going to the gym and you are feeling the delightful soreness that comes. And can you describe a little bit for folks who, because you personally weren't super familiar with this feeling, what is the feeling you get when you do eccentric leg exercises with the proper resistance?
Your ass hurts.
So some comment like walking up the stairs, getting out of bed, sitting on the pot.
Everything hurts. But I have to say, my nemesis has become the shoulder press machine. The shoulder press machine makes me want to cry.
I love that. Well, Carrie, certainly I joke that when sitting on the pot starts to become like you got your hands on your legs and you're like easing your way down because you're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You need like a support thing in the bathroom. Then you know, because that is a squat movement. So when you've exhausted those muscles, and then you're don't let it deter you from using the bathroom when you have to. But until it hurts to sit on the pot, chances are you might be able to use a little bit more resistance. So
the other thing I have to say about exercise, because I have, ever since Jonathan and I met, I have struggled with the exercise. You all know, if you've listened to this podcast for one episode, I hate exercise. Even though I did ballet for so long, I hate exercise, and I really, really struggle to do it. And I have to say that apart from the extra resistance that I get at the gym has transformed everything. I know that I've switched my fat burning hormones on. I know it. I can feel it. And it's not just that I can see it. I mean, when I saw Jonathan the other day for the first time in a month, I took my coat off and he went, wow, that's how different I look in a month. But it's not just that I can feel it. My body feels different on the inside. But the other thing about going to the gym is that when I was doing my exercises randomly on no kind of routine or schedule at home, it was just when I kind of felt the mood. It was just so much hard. For me, there wasn't the same commitment because the weights were there, the bike was there, I could do it now, or I could do it in 10 minutes, or I could do it tomorrow, it's all still there. But having signed up to a gym and said, I will go to this public place every Saturday morning and do my workout, it's even though it's just really a private commitment to me, having to leave the house to do it has made me far more likely to do it than when I just had the equipment sitting in the corner of the room and I'm just like, oh, I can do that later, or oh, I can do that tomorrow. And then tomorrow never came. But having the gym membership has focused me on once a week, I go to the gym for 15 minutes, I kill various pieces of my body, and then I'm done for the week. It has made a huge difference in it making it possible for me to keep to that routine, to keep to that schedule. So that has become now it's just what I do now.
That's brilliant, Carrie. Well, this is an absolute gold mine. So we're going to pick up where we left off. We've got a bunch of other stuff to explore here in the next episode. But one final analogy I want to leave folks with, to the point you just made, is there's a story where there's this individual who's in front of this big wall. Imagine maybe the Great Wall of China, and this wall that looks like it's impossible to climb over. And they've got a backpack on their back because they're sightseeing or traveling or something, but they need to get on the other side of this wall. They're scratching their head. They're looking at the wall. They sit down. They type in their iPhone. They're like, "What? How do I get over this wall?" And they just can't figure it out. And they sit there and whatever. And then eventually they just take their backpack and they throw it over the wall. So now their backpack, all of their supplies are on the other side of the wall. You better believe that person is going to figure out a way to get over the wall. Whereas before they threw their backpack over the wall, there's really not that much of an incentive to figure out. Like, it would be nice if they figured out to get over the wall, but until they must or need to get over the wall, it's often not going to happen. So in addition to thinking about putting in the big rocks first, think about how you can throw your backpack over the wall, aka maybe go to the gym. Once you're there, you're there. You're going to do something. It can be really, really helpful. Does that make sense, Carrie?
Yep.
I love it. Well, Carrie, this is awesome. I'm so excited to continue to explore your transformation on next week's show. And thank you for being an awesome example and giving us this. I did not anticipate being able to have shows about Carrie's epic SANE success in addition to what she's already accomplished. So this is a wonderful treat for me as well. So thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh yeah, folks, this week. Go ahead. Okay.
Very, very excited to be able to share this with people, because I know there's a lot of our listeners out there who get to the point where they're stuck or they feel stuck. And if this can help them to get moving again, then that's just fantastic.
Well, we're going to keep using you as our little case study here next week. And remember, until then, folks, eat smarter, exercise smarter, and live better. We'll chat with you soon.
See ya.
Wait, don't stop listening yet.
You can get fabulous free SANE recipes over at carriebrown.com.
And don't forget your 100% free eating and exercise quick start program, as well as free, fun, daily tips delivered right into your inbox at baylorgroup.com. That's BAILOR group.com.